Okay, so it's pretty cool that the fireball would bounce around, but we also wanted to have an initial force to move it forward, right? So what's going to happen is we're going to create a function where the player would click on the mouse button, and we're going to we'll instantiate this fireball, and we want to add a force for it to go sort of that way, right? So that movement we need to add it to this ball itself. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to make the changes on the prefab. Make sure that we're making changes to the prefab instead of an instance of it. Just delete that for now. Click on the prefab. Add component, playmaker, playmaker. Right, so we'll say init, visualization, or start. And we are simply going to find. Now, another thing we need to consider is, let's put this back here. When the ball is, depending on the direction the player is facing, we want the ball to either go to the right or the left. Right. So if the character is facing the other way, we want to add force in that direction. Right. So that's one thing we need to sort of take care of. Okay, so go back to the prefab. Oh, just by the way, if you click on an instance of a prefab, Playmaker doesn't allow you to edit the instance usually. It's usually not a good idea to do that. So click on Edit Prefab, and that will automatically select the prefab for you to edit. Okay, so in the start, what we want to do is we want to find the direction the player is facing. Right? Remember, we used the X scale here to change the direction of the player. So that's what we're going to check. Just to show you here, look left, we're setting the X scale to -1 for it to go the other way, to look the other way. Okay, so first we're going to find the player object. Player, find game object with the player tag, right? Because the player is tagged with the player tag. I'm going to store it in the player variable. And then we're going to get the scale of the player object. And I need something to hold the X scale value. So I'm going to create a new float, player scale X. And here I'm getting the X scale to of the player, and I'm going to put it in this variable. Okay. Now let's put the add force action in there first, so we kind of know what's required. All right. So we have this add force, and we're going to supply it with an X value and a Y value. Now the X value, we're going to create another variable for it. Do force. Let's call it force. That's fine. And let's do 100, maybe 50. Now I can just use force, but the problem is I'm ignoring the direction the player is facing. So what we need to do, it's fairly straightforward. We'll just do a float multiply. Right, so force is multiplied by player scale X, because we know that the X scale of the player is either going to be 1 or -1. in the simple case. Obviously, if your game has a mechanism where you scale the player up and down, then we need to be careful with that. What I would do is probably once we get the scale, we try to normalize it like what we did before with the knockback, so that we get back to a unit of 1. In any case, so this is either going to be 1 or -1, which gives us a positive force or a negative force on the x. So I think that should work. Let's give that a try. First, before I hit play, because I want to just look at the game frame by frame. Okay, then let's click on that. See that now the ball is moving to the right slightly. We're not adding a lot of force to it, but it didn't go straight down. It's moving slightly to the right, so that's good. So that means it worked when the player is facing to the right. Now let's try the other way. Just put it here. We'll change the direction of the player. Again, let's play it by the frame. By frame, you can see that the fireball is moving to the left slightly. So I might have to increase the force a bit. Okay, so that's good. It seems to be working right. Let's just change the force now before we forget. Let's do 100.